In a bid to end the trade war between the world's two largest economies, the U.S. President Donald Trump has unveiled a new trade breakthrough with China. The deal focuses on accelerating shipments of rare earth minerals to the United States, a critical step towards calming global markets shaken by prolonged tensions. The recent announcement builds on recent talks in Geneva and London, where both sides agreed to lower tariffs and revive stalled negotiations. It appears to solidify the progress, offering a glimpse of cooperation after months of escalating economic conflict. Since May, negotiations have centered on resolving disputes over mineral and technology exports, key flashpoints in the ongoing standoff. While Beijing has confirmed key aspects of the agreement, questions remain about the broader direction of Trump's global trade policy. So, could this new trade deal mark a turning point in U.S.-China relations, or is it merely a short-term pause in their continuing trade battle? That will be our discussion today in depth, and we'll try to provide some answers, so stay tuned. Marking a new trade breakthrough, the Trump administration reached an agreement with China this week centered on rare earth exports to the United States, building on previous talks between the two nations that eased tariffs on imports from Beijing. According to The Hill, the agreement was finalized earlier this week and is being described by the administration as a step towards de-escalating the U.S.-China trade war. Speaking at a White House event on Thursday, President Trump referenced the deal without specifically mentioning rare earths, stating, "We just signed with China the other day." U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick later clarified that China will deliver rare earths to the United States, and in return, the United States will take down the countermeasures. The Hill added that Trump has long sought assistance from other countries on mineral supplies, including rare earths. Notably, he had sought unconditional military assistance to Ukraine on the country's willingness to supply the U.S. with key minerals. On the other hand, China's Ministry of Commerce spokesperson stated that the U.S. and China have agreed on further details of the framework negotiated during the recent talks in London and Geneva. According to Bloomberg, officials from both countries have remained in close contact following their trade discussions in London earlier this month. The spokesperson also noted that China will, in accordance with the law, review and approve eligible export applications for controlled items. China remains a key global hub for minerals, both in terms of mining and processing, accounting for 60% of the world's rare earth element production. Bloomberg also reported that separately, Trump is pursuing additional trade deals. He indicated that a very big agreement could be signed soon to open the Indian market to American businesses, as negotiators meet in Washington to resolve a recent impasse over key issues. And delving more into this, joins us from Beijing, Mr. Nader Yonghwan, writer and political analyst. Also from Florida, Mr. Justin Thomas Russell, Global Foreign Policy Center Executive Director. Welcome to Q News. I'd like to welcome both of you, and I would start with you, Mr. Nader. Now, how do you view the latest trade deal announced by U.S. President Donald Trump in terms of reviving trade ties between Beijing and Washington?
Thank you very much for having me. This trade agreement is a positive signal to the world trade and the economic development. China-US economic and trade cooperation benefits both sides and also match the expectations of the international community. And as China often emphasize that there is no winner in a trade war or tariff war. This agreement also eases the tension between the two countries, and China hopes that the United States will use the role of the China-US economic and trade consultation mechanism further and enhance the mutual understandings and reduce misunderstandings and strengthen cooperation to promote the healthy, stable, and sustainable development of China-US economic and trade relations.
So, Justin, now, how significant is this deal in the context of ongoing US China trade tensions? Do you see it as a genuine breakthrough or a temporary pause in the standoff?
Well, thanks for having me as always, Hala.
Always a
I
pleasure.
mean, the reality is it is not as broad or explosive as President Trump said it was in his recent announcement saying that we have a deal with China. They don't have a deal. They have a stepping stone to a deal. What this deal actually does, and this is what we have to look at, is this deal, as your fellow guest pointed out, is rare earth minerals exported to the U.S., and the U.S. has agreed to take away some of the restrictions on exports on stuff like jet engine parts, a few computer chips that China needs to build up and maintain its expanding infrastructure, like its airlines, its cargo jets, etc. So the bottom line here is, yes, is this a good thing? Of course it is. This comes as a result of the trade representative going from, Geneva, which begot London, which begot yesterday. This is a good step forward, but it is not the groundbreaking deal I think Donald Trump portrays it to be. There's a lot of work to be done.
I get your point. Mr. Nader, from Beijing's perspective, what does this deal signal about China's priorities in trade diplomacy, especially in high-tech and raw material sectors?
Yes, yeah, China's priorities, I think high technology products are very important to China. As we see in this agreement, that China will review and approve applications for the export for the rare earth elements in accordance with the law. And in exchange, the United States will remove its restrictive measures imposed on China, like the semiconductors and also the aircraft engine parts, so that the high technology products are very important to China.
Mr. Justin, you just mentioned that this is not the deal, it's a step towards the deal. Now, rare earth minerals are at the center of this agreement, whether it's the final deal or not. Why are rare earth minerals a game changer in US China trade negotiations?
Well, I mean, rare earth minerals go into stuff that, are key to, Donald Trump's, future of America. It goes into stuff such as, semiconductors, computer chips, television screens, cell phone screens, car manufacturing is required. Even steel and aluminum and other building materials. So rare earth minerals is a good part of any significant trade deal. But the reality is we already had a rare earth minerals deal with Ukraine. We've got a new one that we're working on with China. The reality is we can have all the rare earth minerals that we want.
Yeah.
What we don't have here in the United States is the infrastructure and the workforce to
Yes.
put that rare earth mineral to use. We're 5 to 10 years away from that. And that's why I'm kind of scratching my head is we gotta get serious, and the trade representative and Secretary Besant need to get serious about coming up with trade deals and stop this petty bickering between trade partners such as China, more especially as recently as
What
this
do we
morning.
mean by teddy
We had
beckering? I need to explain to the
well,
audience.
I mean, look, if you look at
Is it
the
beating
China
around the
deal is a
bush or
pro.
something?
You know, Hala, here's the thing is, the China deal, they broadcast this huge deal with China, which, quite frankly, it's a good step forward. I'm happy to see the White House and Secretary of Investment and the trade representative, Ambassador Greer, making good progress in trying to solve this trade deal with China. But at the same time, we're getting into this petty bickering, like the digital trade issue between Canada and the United States.
Okay.
Canada's our best friend, and we're still bickering over money such as this. I mean, this is crazy policy. Again, let me be clear. This is a good step forward in the relationship between Washington and Beijing. Is it solved the problem? By no means, no.
Yeah, I get your point. Mr. Nidir, considering that rare earth minerals were a major sticking point in previous discussions, could this new deal pave the way for deeper, more constructive trade talks?
Yes, I think it will lead deeper and more constructive trade talks in the future because China's position remains principled and pragmatic and very clear that China don't want a trade war, tariff war, and also we must value the China-U.S. economic and trade consultation mechanism that reached in Geneva in trade talks in Geneva, and also implement the consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries in their phone talks in June the 5th, and also solve all the trade problems through equal talks and negotiations.
Mr. Justin, looking at foreign policy overall, how would you assess this week for Trump, from brokering a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Iran to a productive NATO summit, now the deal breakthrough with China, although it's not a deal according to your statements, but it's a step forward. So how do you assess all these steps, if we may say?
Oh, Paula, I don't think there's a word in the English language that I can come up with as far as the foreign policy score that I would give the Trump administration this week. All over the place. Look,
Scattered policy
this,
around the globe.
yeah, I mean, look, here's the bottom line, Hala, is what we're seeing is two different things. One, Trump needed a win on the national security front. In his mind, he got it with the Iran hit. There's still a lot of assessment to be done. I think the jury is still out on the effect that Iran will have on the U.S. National security standing inside the globe. We're still getting readouts from what's going on from the NATO summits and everything. So a lot to be said there. As far as the economic fronts, look, I got to give credit to the Trump administration for really pushing. This was a really gutsy move that the Trump administration in picking a trade war and a tariff war with China, one of our biggest trade partners. What this does, and I think my colleague in Beijing will agree, is this goes back to something we've talked about many times on this network, is our center's research that we are now in a mutually assured economic destruction situation with Beijing. They depend on us, we depend on them. If we get into a long-standing trade war, we're going to create a nuclear winter in the global economy that's going to take years to recover from. That being the case, Trump had a win this week with moving forward and reducing the heat between Beijing and Washington on the trade side. But again, I cannot read. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. Mr. Nether, now critics say that the U.S. has been overly dependent on China for critical minerals. Does this deal represent a strategic win or a necessary compromise? Because we have just listened to Mr. Justin saying that the U.S. and China actually depend on each other. How is your point of view in this regard?
Yes, yeah, as we all know, the two parts, the in nature, the trade relationship between China and the U.S. is a win-win result and a mutual benefit. So that but in the matters of rare earth elements, I think China takes the initiative, but also we don't use it as a weapon, or also we don't want to have a trade war or a terror war, because there is no winner in this kind of wars. The two countries should solve the problems in equal talks with through equal talks and negotiations on the basis of mutual respect, and also promote their cooperation, and also to maintain the stable and healthy relationship between the two countries, because it benefits all the world.
Mr. Justin, how does this deal fit into Donald Trump's broader global trade strategy? Is it a shift towards de escalation or part of a calculated negotiation tactic?
It depends on how you want to look at it, Hala. I mean, the rare
How do
earth
you look at
materials kind of.
it? For
How
me,
do I
I don't
look at
understand
it?
Trump. How do you, as an analyst, look at it?
How do I look at it? Well, there's a couple of ways we can look at it. Number one, the rare earth materials obviously is a good thing. What this does is this kind of feeds into Donald Trump's agenda of manufacturing, building, and making the U.S. dependent upon itself instead of the interconnected, just-in-time logistics requirements that we have. Makes us reliant on China as a trade partner, particularly in the area of electronics. What it does also is it also buys him some time, as he's got 200 countries that he has to negotiate with. There's not enough in the day that that Ambassador Greer, the U.S. Trade Representative, and his team have to try and negotiate all this. Right
That's
now,
why I
he's
don't
just
understand Trump. That's why for me, I don't understand. It's only been 6 months since he took office, and all this is going on.
well, buckle up, Hala. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
It's going to be
Again,
a bumpy ride. Yeah, you're right about that.
To my colleague's point, real quick, in Beijing, I think everybody realizes that nothing is gained by having a trade and tariff war with the two largest economic superpowers on the globe, because it doesn't benefit anything. What it doesn't do also is, as we're starting to see possibly, is that Trump's tariffs war and this trade situation, all it does is drive our trading partners into the arms of the BRIC alliance, particularly that of China. This benefits China. If our trade partners go, look, you're making it very difficult for us to trade with you. I've got to sell my goods, and I need goods in my country. If I can't get it from you guys, I'll go to China. I'll go to India. I'll go to Brazil. I'll go to one of the other BRIC partners. I don't need you. That's something that is not being discussed relatively in Washington. Is the quality better? Sure, I could make that argument. But again, it's not essential.
Yeah, I get your point. Mr. Nether, the agreement builds on talks in Geneva and London, as we have just mentioned, where both sides agreed to lower tariffs. How important were those diplomatic steps in laying the groundwork for this announcement?
Yes, the diplomatic steps are very essential and important to reach this agreement, as China always say that the diplomatic steps and efforts are very important, and also is the only right way to solve the problems with that there is no winner in the world, and instead of to start the war, we should firstly and use the diplomatic steps to solve the problem, so that we can see every agreement is reached by the diplomatic efforts.
Mr. Justin, to wrap it up, what does this deal suggest about the willingness of Washington and Beijing to engage in more sustained long-term cooperation, if there is any?
There is. Look, Beijing needs a deal. We just saw reports this week that Beijing's consumer confidence has taken a nosedive. It dipped down. Let me put it that way, which means that there may be a softening in the Chinese economy, which President Xi definitely does not need on top of everything else. So it's in the China's best interest to come up with some sort of hard deal to move forward. For Donald Trump, he took a calculated risk. He needs a win on this one. If we continue on, we're starting to see a little bit of inflation tick up. We're starting to see a little bit of an economic, situation developing possibly in the next 2 quarters because of these tariff wars, particularly with China. So, this is a calculated risk that he hopes pays off.
Mr. Nader, what are the broader geopolitical implications of this agreement for global supply chains and for the global balance of power?
It's very important. This agreement is very important for the global economy and also the trade, because the trade growth because China and USA, as we always said, that is the in nature the trade relationship between the two countries win-win result and yeah, mutual benefit. Also, and China didn't say that the don't want the China want to understand the U.S. that the China is threatened to U.S. and also is not its enemy, and the two countries can start cooperation instead of conflicts. There is a very positive impacts of this agreement, both for the two countries and also for the global economy, and also because of the trade war and tariff war, we see that a huge damage been brought to not to the two countries only, but also to the world trade and growth. So that this is where there is a very positive and impacts on the trade growth and economic growth in the world.
Mr. Justin, finally, would you characterize this deal as a political win for Trump? Political, not economic. Is it a political win for Trump or just a strategic concession to Beijing?
Oh, that's a really good question, Hala. The thing I got to look at is, how
Let's
how
agree
Trump
politics
looks
and
at it.
economy go hand in hand. So it's
Yeah,
it's
mean, it's
two
hard.
sides of
It's
the
hard to
same
make that
coin, if we may
determination.
say.
Yeah, possibly. The reality is is this a win for Trump? It's a minor win. It's a shallow victory. But the thing about it is, we will not know the true answer to your question until we see end of year economic numbers showing, was there positive growth? Did the economy grow stronger in the long term as a result of these calculations? Or are we seeing increased inflation? Are we seeing increasing costs, and the tension between the trading partners hasn't gone down. Until we see those results, it's a hard question to answer. It's a very excellent question that I think the answer's still out
It
on.
needs time to have an answer, to have a real answer to it.
Yeah,
Well, I'd like to thank you
exactly.
so much. That was Mr. Justin Thomas Russell, Global Foreign Policy Center Executive Director. Thank you so much. And Mr. Nader Young Hwan, writer and political analyst. Thank you also so much for joining us. And that concludes today's episode of In Depth. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.